This is Astrology Hub's Cosmic Curriculum,
where we use the Earth, planets, and stars as our guides,
so we can live with passion, purpose, and grace.
Happy Thanksgiving and happy birthday, Sagittarius. Now, the sun enters adventurous Sagittarius in the early hours of the morning Pacific time, just in time to celebrate Thanksgiving in the United States. Soon after, the moon makes her last aspect and turns void of course all day long. And that means there's not a lot of oomph to get new projects launched. So if you're lucky enough to have the day off, it's a good time to just take a break, have a time out, take some time to reflect, take a walk, or maybe everyone will agree on a collective nap time, perhaps after some turkey, that is.
Oh my gosh. And my family, that's definitely going to be happening. All my brothers lay on the floor after they eat their Thanksgiving dinner. It's quite comical or gross. I don't know which one. But I got to ask, so is it a coincidence that the new moon enters into Sag at the same time that we're celebrating Thanksgiving? Or is that another example of the cosmic curriculum being more in the mainstream, like reality, than most people realize?
Oh, it is definitely an example of the cosmic curriculum being in the mainstream more than they realize. Because if you think about it, as a harvest festival, the American Thanksgiving is kind of late to the party. The Canadians celebrate it in October when the harvest is actually coming in. So for Americans, it's been slid back until the sun is entering Sagittarius. And that's why it gives this feeling of this whole holiday season that goes from Thanksgiving all the way through the Christmas holidays and Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and all the other holidays that are around this time of year. It's all a big month-long festival of Jupiter, festival of celebrating gratitude and other Jupiter experiences. Jupiter's the planet that lifts us up and connects us to something bigger than ourselves, whether it be the divine or that feeling of that heart's expansion that we get when we feel grateful. And of course, all the other things. Jupiter's this fat, jolly planet. And so, we have Santa Claus, who's a fat, jolly planetary avatar. So there's a lot of things that go into this season that we may not think about that do have roots in the cosmic curriculum.
What about the celebration of light? I mean, I know that has to do with the solstice too, but, think about all the candles and all the Christmas lights and all the things that are going to, people are going to start putting up on their houses like tomorrow. Is that also a Jupiter reflection?
And the fact that Sagittarius is a fire sign. I mean, this is all a fire celebration of gratitude that comes in the darkest part of the year.
Wow.
Think about it. The sun, the way astrology is built from the seasonal perspective of the northern hemisphere. It's all an allegory of the sun's journey from light to dark and light again. And so this is the time of year when we're going into the greatest darkness by the number of hours that we spend in darkness in the day. And what that translates to is the need to, light a fire in the dark. Find the light in the dark. And so we have all these festivals of light so that we know that there's that hope. There's that shining beacon on the hill, or however you want to see it. It's very Jupiterian. That I'm going to light a candle and hope for the best.
I love that. And, my girls and I talk about, I have felt this real impulse to redefine the holidays. Just for myself, really. I've, 13 years Catholic school, and I had that whole beginning of my life, and yet it never really resonated with me. I loved the holidays. I love celebrations. I love ritual, but the meaning, I couldn't connect with a lot of the things that I was told. But as I've learned more about astrology and as I've gotten more in touch with nature and this whole idea of, remembering our light in the darkest times, I love communicating that with my little girls, when we're lighting the candles or when we're putting the lights on the tree or, that whole entire holiday season that we're now in. It's like, this is our chance to remember our inner light. And no matter how dark it gets, that light is always there. So I love, as you're all like lighting your your candles on your Thanksgiving tables or whatever you're doing today and this week, we can be thinking about that inner light and how we can cultivate it and how we can let it grow in times that seem dark and in times that are light too.
And once you see it in this context, it makes perfect sense that, we're barely out of, Thanksgiving fall colors, and we've got Christmas colors right there, right behind it. And I don't know, here in Texas, I don't know what it's like in Hawaii. I'm not sure how many trees they have in Hawaii.
Not so many pine trees.
As soon as the turkeys are out of the store, the pine trees are in the parking lot, and you can bring them home like as early as people set them up that weekend after Thanksgiving. Yeah. And I was always like, wow, it just gets earlier and earlier and every year. But the astrologer in me goes, oh no, this is Jupiter. This is Jupiter speaking to us and encouraging us to go to parties and perhaps overeat and be generous and spend money and all of these things that we might not do at other points in time of the year because it's in the nature of the cosmic curriculum. And then as soon as the sun moves into Capricorn on the 21st of December, that's when we start like switching into the next vibe. So we sort of have this abundant expansion right before the Christmas holiday. And then we're like, oh, is it time to clean up yet?
All right. Okay. So let's talk about Friday and Saturday. What's happening?
Okay. So the Gemini full moon graces the evening skies Thursday night Pacific time. So for many of us, that desire to tune out may continue into Friday and Saturday because an active yet very slippery aspect is brewing as 6 planets. 6 planets is a lot of planets to align in what astrologers call a mutable T-square. No, that's a big word. And it's not as important as what planets are involved as how it might make you feel. Torn between what you wanted to get started on, something new, and running as far away from whatever you're doing as possible. In fact, wanting to start something new might actually just be another form of escape. Makes some sense, given what we've been living through the last few months. The desire for a break at a time when, if you have some time off makes some sense. I think I might be taking advantage of this as well. So once again, Neptune is caught in the spotlight at the apex of that T-square, and it's slowing down to end its 5-month retrograde. So we crave this feeling of being in flow that Neptune provides. We want to merge back into that cosmic consciousness. But barring that, we're going to take any escape we can get. So if it's binge watching or eating or sleep or sex or alcohol or anything else to get us out of our heads. So if you've got some time off and you find yourself not wanting to be totally engaged in the work of the world, it's a little understandable this week.
It makes me think of just an ebb and flow. Like this is an ebb, and don't misinterpret your lack of motivation to do what you've been doing. Maybe you're working on projects, or maybe, there's something you've been working on and maybe you don't feel a lot of fire to do that right now. Don't misinterpret that as, oh, well, I need to find something new to do. It's like, maybe not. Just ride this little wave. This is just a little down period, and it's okay to tune out a little bit and the energy will come back. That's a part of the hardest thing for me, is trusting, like, the energy will come back. Just because you feel like this right now doesn't mean you're going to feel like this forever.
And I think it's a uniquely modern idea that we're supposed to go and go and go and go and never stop. And there is no other natural cycle like that. No. And at its heart, astrology is the study of natural cycles and how it applies to us. If there's no other natural cycle that does that, why do we think we are exempt?
Oh my gosh. I have a trainer that I work out with. I turned 40 and was like, I want to be in the best shape of my life. I want to be in the best shape of my life this decade, in my 40s. And then when I'm 50, I'm going to say the same thing. So anyways, but one of the things that he talks about is training in perpetuity, meaning so many of us just train, or like, maybe you go to spin class or maybe you walk it, but there's no break ever. Because you're not training for an event. You're not training for a marathon. If you were training for a marathon, you'd train for the marathon, you'd taper down your training before the marathon, you'd run the marathon, and then you'd rest. But for so many of us who aren't really training for events, we just train in perpetuity. But the thing is, the body creates strength when we're resting. I mean, we have to rest or else we will make no gains. We'll just train over our training. So it's the same thing with everything. And I think that we definitely forget, and our culture is very much always go, go, go. And it's a great reminder. And then of course the cosmic curriculum's there again to, keep us in this period of time totally unmotivated. But so many of us don't even listen to the cues of like, wow, there's no motivation here right now. The energy's not here right now. Maybe I should just take a little break. Most people are probably going to try and force themselves through it. And I think that's a good reason why you're tuned into this podcast, so that you can know that it's okay to take a little break right now.
And maybe not even successfully force themselves through it. So you create, I don't know about, sometimes the end of my head is like, why aren't you working as you stare at the computer? Shouldn't you be working? And so you sit there for hours. What am I doing here? And maybe I should just go do something else. And yet I feel compelled, but it's obviously not working. And those are the kind of habits that we need to get out of, because who said, non-productive times are non-productive because our brain is trying to find a way to rest because we've overtaxed it. I think there's a lot of that going on in our culture in ways that we're not talking about, at least not yet.
We are so programmed. I mean, even honestly, even the work day of 9 to 5, like that is actually just completely not sustainable for human beings. It wasn't really designed to get the greatest innovation or creativity out of people. It was
designed to make us parts in a factory.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, we still have this model even in our schools, and yet it is so out of sync with nature. It's so out of sync with our nature. And I think for those of us who are aware of it, that can actually create a rub too. Because then it's like, I know that I'm not supposed to be doing this all the time, but I actually don't know how to do it any different because this is the way that it's set up. So maybe that's something we all can explore together here at the Cosmic Curriculum.
Sounds like a good plan.
Talk about Sunday.
After you've had some battery recharging over the last few days, you might find Sunday evening brings a fresh wave of energy. You might even say a new hope. Now, usually astrologers and other magic users recommend hosting prosperity rituals as the moon is increasing in light. That means when it's growing from a new moon where it's invisible to a full moon where it's bright with light. But the full moon just happened a few days ago. You might want to make an exception in this case, because if the moon strikes you as the sun meets Jupiter this evening, it's kind of like a Jupiter new moon. See, we're launching a new cycle of how you relate to Jupiter things like prosperity and gratitude and abundance in your life. So maybe take a moment, write down your wishes for this new cycle, and Jupiter and Sagittarius like fire, so set them on fire to release them to the universe.
I love that, a prosperity ritual. How fun. Donna, what would be the best time for us to do that?
I would say the Sunday evening.
Perfect. Okay. And that's just basically focusing our intentions on our prosperity goals for 2019 and writing them down, and then lighting a little fire and burning the paper and letting it go.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. There's also others depending on your circumstance. You might want to just use it to express gratitude for the gifts that you have been given, maybe ones that you don't take enough time to honor within yourself. Or if you're the type of person who's realizing that you might have some blockages to your own prosperity, maybe something's come up to make you realize, wait, I'm not asking for a raise that I think I deserve, or because I've worked really hard, or something else along those lines. Write that down and, use it to burn it out of your system. Planets used to be considered gods. That's why they're all named after Roman gods. And they're energy principles that are here to help us go through these times. And so to tap into Jupiter wants us to be prosperous and abundant. And if you show up and say, hey, I am ready to do the work, Jupiter's going to lift you up and help you do it.
Brilliant. Love that. Okay. Let's talk about the week ahead.
All right. So you could find it a little harder to sleep on Sunday night as Mercury is squaring off with that energizing Mars. So if you're having a hard time sleeping, that tired vibe may lead to a few irrational irritations or misunderstandings on Monday. So when in doubt, give yourself a timeout. But it's back to full speed on Tuesday. So set up those meetings to plan out your year-end timeline and try to stay realistic with what you'll be able to get done over the next few weeks, because there's only 4 weeks left in the year at this point. So from Tuesday afternoon all the way through Wednesday, there are actually no major aspects turning exact. And that's kind of unusual to see nothing happening in the sky. And such quiet skies can give you a chance to dive in and go deep on what you're working with. Now, we could look around in the sky and try to find some asteroids that are making big impacts, but I prefer to just look at that moon in Leo, playful Leo, and just consider that spirit of play while we are working through things. I had someone tell me once that if it's not fun, you're not doing it right. And so this is a little moment to think about that, of all these great ideas for 2019 that you might be coming up with. Is it fun? Or are you doing it because you think you should be?
Absolutely. Rule number 1, have fun. That's rule number 1 and rule number 5 in my house with my kids. And rule number 1 in deciding what projects we work on at Astrology Hub. Rule number 1 for, I think it should be rule number 1 for life. Just have fun. We need to enjoy this time while we're here.
When the moon's in Leo, it's a great time to use kids as your example, because they're naturally tuned into that energy just because they're their developmental stage. Leo is all about becoming aware of yourself as an individual, like as a creative, thriving individual. And kids are so good at it because they're just going through it. They're going from being, the cute little baby blob that's kind of floppy into, I have power, I have agency, I have arms and legs that I can move around. That energy that kids carry even through their elementary years is all about Leo. And so what a great gift to look at your own children as, hey, this is how you do it.
God, they model it all the time. So yes, let's look at our kids and embody some of that childlike play, that Leo energy. Sounds great, Donna.
And the childlike wonder of the season. So just enjoy this playful simplicity of the moon in Leo, because next week's dark moon is intense and brooding. So enjoy the break while it lasts. Until next time. This is the Cosmic Curriculum.
Coming soon to headphones and speakers near you.